Farah, you are walking, and you have been walking just for a long time through these dark moors. You're exhausted, and you've been walking for days, and you've been trying to follow the footsteps and the trail left by your father. Trying is the operative word. He is an expert ranger, and occasionally you will see a footstep that tells you you're going in the right way, maybe left there on purpose. You might see a broken branch, things like that, but those clues are few and far between. It's been a few days now, and you're having a very hard time hunting anything out here to eat, and so you are weak with hunger and exhaustion.
Varoth rests wearily against an incline of grass and weeds. He looks down at the pitiful pit stop or campfire that they're resting upon. The Dunedain are famed for being able to track anything. They're able to see the slight change of direction of a blade of grass or a fallen leaf. But right now, his vision is tired and missing these usually standard tricks in his resume.
You've been trudging along, just barely putting one foot in front of the next in the deepest of winter here in the moors. And in your sleepy state, you realize too late that you are walking on ice. The shore is behind you, and you can feel that there is thin ice beneath you.
Is Faroth alone? Sorry, Lloyd.
Absolutely alone, yeah. You left that barrow some days ago in the hopes of making your way back to Numenor.
Yes, yeah. Faroth realizes his mistake. He just stops and he closes his eyes. He doesn't even need to look down. It's just all of a sudden he knows, like when you receive a small cut to your finger. Sometimes you don't fully feel the pain until you look upon it. But he knows without looking that he's standing on potential death. And he closes his eyes and he tries to remember the teachings of the field marshals, the rangers above him, and also his father, about how to step lightly. The exercise given to walk upon thin ice, as it were. And he tries to concentrate.
Little cracks and fractures pass. You're better off going all the way across now than going back. And then you hear the sound you didn't want to hear, this splinter, and your foot goes through the ice, and then your whole body is underwater, and it is so cold, and the air is pushed from your lungs, and it's black, and you can just see that shrinking portal of light above you, and you can look down and see these hands trying to grab you. You're so tired, and your muscles are burning, and you think your lungs might explode.
I think he's trying to pull himself up, but the strength that he's using in his arms to do so, his legs are so tired, they feel numb even before they're frozen by the cold water. He tries to reach out at that pinprick of light above him, but he feels these hands clasping around his ankles, and then his legs, and then his body, and then finally his throat. And he realizes that perhaps this is time. Perhaps what that creature in the barrows told him was right. Perhaps it's time to let go.
There's a hand and a golden light from the portal. A crown, it looks like, of silver and light. And the hand grabs your hand and it pulls you up. And then you open your eyes and you cough up blood. Thick, goopy, black blood. And there's an elf standing over you. It's Glorfindel. And he looks at you calmly and says, "We thought we might have lost you."
Faroth attempts to speak, but the rasp on his throat sends him into another fit of coughing until he is finally able to croak out. "The Dragon Gate, it remains taken."
It does. Rest. And he puts a hand on your chest and pushes you back down onto the sort of makeshift little stretcher that you're on. Cineric and Board, you've been standing outside of this tent, not allowed in. You're in the Dragon Gate, this huge gate area. The whole army has moved forward. You've established like a bulkhead basically inside Gundabad, and everything has moved up except for the siege. So the broad beams, most of them remain outside with the siege weapons, and the cavalry who are still out there making sure nothing gets in or out. But most of the forces have actually moved into the Dragon Gate. You've established a sort of base here. The dwarves have built fortifications, making sure nothing comes in from inside the mountain. And there are stations built up and healing tents and things like that. You've been both standing outside the tent that Faroth is in impatiently for hours. Well, Glorfindel has been in there. You've heard him singing in Elvish throughout this time. You wouldn't sit down. You've been told 100 times to sit down, to lie down, that your wounds need tending to as well. But you refused to leave the tent.
Do we hear the exchange that was just made and the coughing and the...
I think the coughing you would hear, yeah.
Yeah. I imagine, like, maybe there was some conversation during those hours, but I imagine they have been silent for a very long time, just staring over the camp being erected around them. And I imagine there might be some sort of perimeter where people don't really trespass because there is a dragon, a small dragon, that just, like, lies across the front of this tent, perhaps, in front of them.
Yeah, there's a wide berth given by people. Although there are some elves who have like fussed around you, trying to make sure that the little cuts and minor wounds that you have are like seen to. They could try and take care of the more major ones, but you both have like staunchly refused to leave this area, like faithful hounds, waiting, unwilling to move. And so, more than once, you would have seen a younger elven woman like come and take a wide berth around the dragon, come at you from the other side, and then kind of like stitch up a cut on your shoulder or like one of the cuts in your face board, something like that.
And the board winces as, you know, a needle is threaded through his flesh, and he hears the coughing in the other room. And as you said, Dan, it's, you know, he kind of stands up and maybe even pulls a couple stitches out again, you know, because he's worried about his friend, and he pauses, gathers himself, sits back down, and says a bashful thank you to this elf who is healing him.
She like looks at you, and like you've pulled out some of the stitches, and she just and like throws the needle onto the ground and like turns around. This is not the first time this has happened.
Board looks to Cynric and says, or asks the question that's on the wind. Where's Baragond?
Maybe, I don't know if I presume they haven't had word yet, but maybe messages have gone and come, and there hasn't been too much told of that.
Yeah, it would have been made clear that like the expedition that Baragond had gone on and that the elves had gone on, they haven't come back. So either they've gone really far deep in, or something terrible has happened, but it's unclear which of those it is. The dwarves have like widened up that tunnel pretty significantly to the point now where troops could enter, and they're gathering there many of Thorin's forces.
So that was, well, another reason for them to be incredibly grim. And Cynric turns to the sitting board, still becrested in this helmet of the first dragon. I told him to give word. It all got too much. I should have known better. Still, it seems our king has awakened. And he like pulls back the tent flap at the sound of the coughing.
There's a look that comes from Glorfindel. He like turns, his face terrible and frightening. This is the look that he would give anyone who enters his tent without his say. And what is generally the most beautiful face can also have an aspect of terror, and he would turn with like this countenance that's quite frightening, and then he would see it's you, and it would soften, and he'll just like incline his head.
I think I wouldn't have crossed that sort of respect until he does soften, and he gives a last look to Board before sliding into the tent himself and like holding the flap open for Board to follow.
Board does. And he does nod at kind of keeping his head down from Glorfindel's eyes, noting that they had surprised him in that way.
He will live. Although he seems to be trying his best to ensure that doesn't happen, throwing himself at the front of every encounter you engage in. Glorfindel like looks down at you, Faroth, with this like wry smile. There's only so many times that we can do this for you.
I don't believe I'll lose count, Faroth growls.
Cynric like shares a look with Glorfindel. Dragged him this far, into this many healers' tents. I'll drag him to a few more before our work is done. And sometimes he drags me.
There's like a hustle and bustle, and you can hear like it's mostly men here and elves, and then you can immediately hear when dwarves enter that equation. There's a different sort of noise to dwarves, and a loud sort of barking, and you can hear Thorin, who's like in the kind of major tent area, and he's like barking out, "Where's the king? Where's Faroth? Where is he?" And some people are like pointing into the tent. He sweeps the tent open and just enters, and there are several dwarves with him. You're alive. Good. Surprising. Good.
Thorin Oakenshield. It is good to see that you're in one piece also.
I've been through worse than this. We are about to go below. A great many of the slaves and wretches have escaped and are now being cared for by the broad beams in the siege camp beyond. Hundreds, if not thousands, have escaped thanks to the artifice of Beregond and the elves who have gone below. But there are more still, and those tunnels need to be secured, and I am going. But I have a favor to ask you.
Faroth goes to open his mouth, and a wheeze just escapes him.
Very good. I shall ask Cynric the Mourner instead. And he turns immediately and looks at Cynric. This, and he points, is my nephew, Kili. He's one of my best. He is an excellent scout and an excellent warrior. I would ask you bring him with you.
Cynric looks slightly surprised, and then sort of centers his expression. Of course, we might not set out for some time, but he is welcome.
He has king's blood in him. He says as if that's the most important thing.
I understand.
You You prate, he coughs this blood that's clotted in his throat. You prate of honoring the blood of the king, yet you do not honor this one. And he turns to Faroth, who was ignored by Thorin just moments ago.
He's indisposed. We don't have time for pleasantries.
Thorin is right. We need to press on. But I must say this talk of me being king is a little preemptive. A little less of that. And concern on that matter. And more on our friend. Is there word? Is there word of Beregond? You say many came from the catacombs.
Many of them spoke of Beragond leading and going ever deeper and freeing ever more slaves, breaking the chains of a great many.
And yet he does not surface.
No, he does not.
We have sent him to his death.
He had a great many oaths with him. He may yet not have fallen.
How many more people will fall on our words?
Well, you are just as ready to fall for them as everyone who serves here. They all knew the cost. And they all accepted it.
You came and asked me to send my people into this war. And the people, the Firebeards and the Broadbeams and the people of Bree and the people of Anuminas and the people of Rivendell and of Thranduil's woodland realm, all of these people have come here in commands of their leaders. As long as you are there with them, you need not feel guilt. When you are the one who sits on the throne and sends your men to die, then you must examine your actions.
Farth just shoots the dwarf a look, a mixture of admiration and also contempt. You can't really work out these complex emotions that he's feeling currently, feeling that he has sent one of his best friends into certain death. He did his best to ignore that fact, and he ignored it well by killing enemies of theirs. But now it seems like a harsh reality. He sinks back into the bed and he says, Lord Glorfindel, how long? How long until I can fight?
He gives you this look, and then he looks around the room at all of the people who are looking at him, wanting him to say immediately. You need rest.
Rest be damned.
If you must go, a day. Take a day.
Farroth almost looks for permission to board and Cynric. He feels their gaze upon him, and he doesn't like. He feels incredibly insecure that he's lying down in a bed, wounded, whilst everyone else remains more or less battle ready.
This is a big decision. I mean, Cynric looks the board, and then looks back to Farroth. Does Farroth look like near death at this point still?
Well, I imagine he looks really bad, but I mean, mechanically, I don't want to say that's down to Lloyd, really.
Yeah.
So the throat wound has been sealed, sewn shut, basically, and it's red and angry, but it doesn't look, like it's going to open again anytime soon. The elves have seen to that. He doesn't look well. He looks pale. He looks tired. The black bags under his eyes, but that's the case for all of you. You're all wounded, all exhausted.
Yeah.
In the intervening hours, I'll say that you guys could have had a short rest.
Okay.
Farroth sees the perplexity upon Cynric's face, and he looks to Glorfindel and he says, a night. But in that night, we will put the time to use. Not a second can be wasted. We must devise a strategy. Thorin Oakenshield, when do you march?
We go as soon as possible. I brought Keely here, as I know that you need good men by your side. I and my men will head below into the open tunnels, and we'll see what we can do to rescue the rest of the slaves and hopefully form a defensive emplacement down below. We're better suited to fighting in tunnels.
I and your people do it mightily. Thank you. Friends, and he sits up. In my time that I've been indisposed, what have we learned? What action? What action should we take?
What intel have we got in this intervening time? Do we have a location we could push on to?
The longer we wait, the better the fortifications those orcs are building. One day is good. He looks to Feroth. One day. But beyond that, we'd be assaulting another fortress. Even more than they already are.
The information you have about the layout is that you are in this main sort of cavern. You've seen beyond that there is a maze, a great maze that you'll have to get through to even get into the main sort of mountain. There are 3 different spires, which you can assume are each a mountain fortress. The central one goes up so high, just insane. So it's, I mean, information-wise, I guess you would know that there's the main leader is going to be in the middle spire, but there's going to be problems on each spire as well.
Okay. Do we know? Do we have any kind of intel that has been gathered by any of the scouts or anything about which direction to head in? Like, what might be one way or another? Like, in terms of places of interest or targets of value?
So the scouts have had trouble getting through the maze. Some of them managed to get into the center, and one of them managed to run back. And he reported that at the center of that maze, there is a great deal of treasure. But also something shifting beneath that treasure. He saw a dragon there at the center of this maze, protecting the way through. He said it was too big to leave the maze, that it was stuck in that central room, trapped there by its own enormity. Other than that, some of them were able to get through, and beyond that, there are just countless chambers. There's a canal system that you can use to get down into the pits below, and also kind of like above. There's like a very clever dwarven engineered sort of like, basically like a lift system using hydraulics.
So really there is no way but through that dragon?
I mean, there must be a way around, because there's no way that the orcs go through that every day, but they haven't found it.
Okay.
If the dwarves haven't found it, it's likely that we won't. So, just so I continue with all the facts available to me, Lloyd, you say we get a short rest. Now, for some reason, I think I might be confusing what we do with Saga and Against the Shadows. So what's the short rest use here? What am I getting from it?
You can spend hit dice. But you would have spent hit dice last session, I think, with the little rest you had. So whatever ones you didn't spend, you can spend now. I think I let you spend 2 or something like that last session.
Yeah, it was. I can see where I put it as well. Okay.
So you can spend the rest of them now if you want.
I'm going to. Oh my goodness. Thank you. I just wanted to check before we got any further. That's all, Lloyd. Thank you.
Yep, no worries. Thorin says his goodbyes. He claps you on the shoulder, Keely, and just gives you a nod, which is about as affectionate as Thorin would ever get. And he says, "Fight well."
Trust me.
And then he goes.
And you're left with a young-looking dwarf with a tattered, weather-worn, blood-spattered blue cloak over his mail hauberk, and he pulls down his hood and nods to all three of you and says, I'm Philly of Durin's Line. I'm Killy of Durin's Line. At your service.
I incline the dragon helm, and we will be needing it.
We will. We are glad to have you.
Aye.
I have
Reports have come back from the dam, the damming operation. They managed to defeat the tower there, and they have begun blocking it and like working on that. They're also pretty certain that there won't be an escape route in that direction if people are trying to flee the mountain. But they need to keep almost all of those troops there, they think, because there is an obvious way out there. So to hold that and to build the dam, they need to keep those troops there.
Faroth is pleased that they have a presence in different areas of the siege currently. It'll keep the forces inside engaged on multiple fronts. He stands up and he's going to look to Killy, and he's going to say, "Do you have brave dwarves that will be accompanying you, or am I to take it that this would be a scouting mission that has been suggested?"
I'm here to advise and to help as I see fit and as best I can. And there are a few dwarves, but there are a few dwarves to spare. Thorin has taken what he needs, but I assure you, I am not what I lack in number, I can make up for in grit.
I have no doubt of it. Killy of the Lonely Mountain. Your king, Thorin. His stratagem is wise to fortify a position deeper within the mountain is something we must do too, even if it does include doing that within this maze. I would suggest that we lead what forces we can into the maze, set up a defensive position, and then he swallows hard, and we shall scout ahead alone. Are there any objections?
No. I would like to take some time to try and find that alternative path, if we can, before we face what's at the center.
It shall be done.
So you can send a bunch of scouting parties into the maze to try and, like a more of a force to try and find the way out. Is that what you want to do?
No. And this is my personal opinion. If you guys disagree, then that's absolutely fine. But I think it would be folly to send people ahead of us. I think we should be the ones in the front. I think if we put a defensive position at our back and leave a trail back to it, we will always have that place to go to. Then we can advance, fall back to the original position, and go forward again if needs be.
I'm guessing with it being a labyrinth, there are many different routes, and that we might send some parties down different ones to try and find this. One of them will hopefully will end in this shortcut.
Agreed, but at the same time, we don't want to be dividing our forces into this maze where we don't know what's in it, where they can be picked off like in smaller groups. That's why I'm saying that we fortify before the maze and then retest the paths. That way we can be sure.
Okay. I don't know the enormity of that maze, but it may well take us a very long time.
It could do, absolutely, and we'll just have to see what happens. But I don't want to send men blindly into that maze. It's folly.
Okay. So then you begin and you head out into this maze. It's featureless is the main thing you can say about it. It's smooth stone walls that go up higher than you could possibly see, and that you follow. You go down various paths, countless of them ending in dead ends. Frequently, you'll encounter orc patrols or orcs who are like wandering through it, which at this stage is not a problem for you to dispatch. And it happens more than once, but eventually you do come upon an opening, like a wider opening, and the glitter of gold there. So you know that you have come to the center. If you want to enter that or not, that is a decision that you can make, but you have come there. And you've tried to avoid it. You've come here before 3 or 4 times from different routes. So it seems like a lot of the routes are designed to come here or to lead people here.
Faroth looks to their new dwarven ally. What do you make of the stone? Are there any clues that you might pick up, Killy?
You can see underneath all this orcish scratching some quality dwarven work, but I'll see if there are any traces as to its having been opened recently. And he inspects the stone, and with a... Do we get... What role shall I use? Do we get any?
So for you, it would be history, stone cunning. You get to add, you have expertise in it. You're
okay. So. I get a... I get a 26.
Goodness. Okay, so this is definitely part of the original dwarven design, this maze. You think there's no way orcs could dream up something like this, something so complex, something so advanced. What the orcs have done clearly is they realize that this chamber, the entrances and exits are fairly tight, but the inner chamber is enormous. And so they've obviously trapped a dragon in here a long time ago and have let it grow to the size where it can no longer escape. You can see occasionally that there are like runes on the walls, or they've been mostly scratched out. Frequently, though, you will see that the Eye of Sauron has been like carved over those runes, sort of brutal carvings here and there throughout the maze. Beyond that, beyond that, there's actually quite a lot of graffiti and stuff that you would see from the orcs. Like Uznak is a little girl, or all these like little things that you would see over the centuries, you know, like built up and like the inside of like a toilet, you know, all these like weird little rhymes and stuff and little poems that orcs have written, and then also just like crude drawings and things like that.
Yeah, this is probably the old dwarven killing ground, in a defense that they've turned into they've captured a dragon in. We could make our way through here if we can. If the dragon is captured, maybe freedom is something it craves from its memory, and we can use that to maybe we can bargain with this creature, though I don't know whether it would be willing to leave its gold.
You would unleash a dragon upon everyone.
Upon orcs.
Not sure what kind of innate dragon knowledge or get advanced advantage from this helmet, but from looking at the maze, you said that the maze ways are quite narrow, and this dragon is potentially huge, and it would probably take a considerable amount of work to get it out. If we did promise that, right, Lloyd?
So the corridors themselves aren't that small, but what you notice as you approach, each time you approach this, is that they tighten.
Right.
So like by design, it's like the chamber inside is big. You can see that, like you can always hear like echoes and stuff from inside. But the corridors themselves are maybe 30 feet wide and very, very tall. But when you get close to the entrance to this big chamber, they've all been like tightened up to the point where they're like 10 feet across.
Okay.
What Board said is right. Unleashing a dragon upon this world would be folly. But it doesn't need to know that. It just needs to think that we can release it. I know that is a dangerous proposition, but...
If we can get past it with this promise, then maybe from the other side, where they're less cautious, it'd be easier to find the orc tunnels that lead past the dragon. I'm sure they don't go next to it, and from this side they may have obscured them, but on the other side it may be easier to find.
It is true. And once, and he reaffirms himself, he says, once Gundabad is taken, we can redivert the river if needs be. We can drown the beast here.
With a quick stone cunning, do I think that's a possibility?
Yep, it would. I mean, it would take a lot of flooding because it would have to flood the bottom levels first. But it's possible. You think it would take maybe a year?
No, a year isn't long for a dwarf.
The where we are at the moment, Lloyd, you mentioned that this was a place that many paths would lead to. Would this be the ideal place to set up that defensive position that we had planned, or
I get the impression that the room beyond is very large. Like the rest of the corridors are, I mean, you couldn't really set up a good defensive emplacement, but this room beyond, you can see now looking into it that like the ceiling is higher and that it like stretches. You can't see the wall on the other side.
We shall investigate to see if it is a worthy place for someone to barricade. And with that, Valve is going to slink forward as stealthily as he can.
So you can enter this room. It opens into this vast chamber. Ceiling is maybe 150 feet above you. And the chamber maybe 750 feet square, just enormous. The ground is littered in silver and gold and goblets and necklaces and all sorts of finery. Everything that shines litters the floor. Not to the extent that you cannot see the floor, but as you kind of look and you follow, it does kind of slope upwards. And for a second, you don't see it until you do. Lying atop this great amount of gold is a golden-skinned dragon, wingless. Its head maybe the size of a horse, and it's coiled tightly atop this this gold and silver, just breathing. And you can see that the eyes have spotted you immediately. They like look and follow, and it doesn't move.
You say it was like 750 feet across or something? Hello?
I can hear you.
Oh.
I can hear you,
Sorry,
I think, Lloyd.
My sound vanished for a second. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you say it was 750 feet across?
Yes. The
Huge
ceiling,
okay.
Ceiling is about 150 feet up, but the rest of the room is about 50.
So, I would have told the other dragon that I presume has been following us for some time just to stay where it is, back within the corridors, maybe around the nearest corner or something, if that wasn't too far away.
Sure.
And then we move in. I imagine then stop and look at the enormity of the beast. Mm. Cynric is not confident in his like this thing is like 4 times the size of the last dragon, maybe.
Yeah, it's pretty huge.
And this is, sorry, just to get it clear in my mind, this is a dragon? Like, has it got wings, or is it more of a
Oh no,
drake?
wingless drake.
It's wingless.
It's
Okay,
wingless.
perfect. Okay. Oh, shit.
He's not confident in his ability to convince that thing, but who knows? We do, Faroth. An army cannot march past here without that worm dealt with, he says quietly.
It would be the time that my throat is slit when I have to speak with such a thing.
Even sure it can speak if it has spent its life within these, and he says hallowed halls with some irony. If it has never seen the light and only seen orcs, how intelligent will it be?
Faroth meets Cynric's eyes through the helm. I imagine like the dragon helm. I've seen like a few different pictures of what it looks like, but it's like kind of like a slit thing around the eye, so you can just about make out your eyes in the gloom. And he can't help but notice this new addition to Cynric's armament, but Faroth was a little bit busy, as you may recall, when he acquired it. But he hasn't asked about it, but he just gives it a dark look.
Yeah, he looks at you back, staring at the helmet. It doesn't allow for conversation so much as commands. I wonder if there's a reason that the orc that had it was commanding a drake the size of what was in the dragon's mouth and not this one. It may be beyond it.
Faroth takes... Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, although we've all been reckless in our time, that is not something I take lightly, walking to a dragon and telling it to sit.
Faroth takes one step towards Cynric and he puts his hand on his shoulder and he looks at him and he says, "We have faced terrible evil in this world. Nightmares, trolls, wraiths. You and I have both seen the eye now and have heard those words. A dragon may be different, true, but it can be reasoned with, I'm sure. Everything wants something."
He takes a very deep and very long sigh and then straightens up a little bit. And maybe like shifts some of his like elven gear around a little bit. And gives it gives Faroth one last look. And he puts his hand to like match yours on his shoulder, mirror it. Tell Elwyn it's been glorious. And then he turns and marches towards the dragon.
Faroth looks to Board and says, "He'll tell her himself." As the dragon growls.
Exactly, and he looks to you, Faroth, like you're crazy.
That is old blood that I smell.
I'm sure his heart like leaps, pounds in his chest. I don't know how far I like got before the dragon. Am I like 100 feet away or further?
I think you would have like just entered the chamber and like started your move towards it, and it would have like done the smell and then spoke.
Sure. Okay, so I'm still like quite a few 100 feet away, but like I guess the sound carries in this chamber. It is some of the oldest, perhaps not as old as yours.
That helmet. Take it off.
Am I actually hearing the dragon then? It's not channeled through the helmet in some way.
No, you're hearing it.
Okay, right. It's not just in my head. Right. He will. Yeah, there'll be a moment pause where his like step falters, and he sort of slides it off and then holds it kind of like regally next to him.
Manners. Not something I have come to expect from those who dwell here.
I am not one who dwells here. I am from the wider earth beyond. You have had a great many disrespectful guests, I'm sure, but we are here to put an end to such guests.
There are but 4 of you. There are still a great many orcs dwelling within.
We are 4 of but many. We were here to govern passage through this labyrinth. Passages for our many thousands of troops to see the orcs banished from these halls forevermore.
You would banish them from these halls. That would be something I would like to see.
We've already banished them from this point, or to this point. We have only but beyond here to see it done.
Then let me out of this prison, and I will wreak upon them a vengeance the like of which your kind cannot conceive of.
He sees fire and darkness and shadow and pain for a moment. I think like the little light sources perhaps that shine off this gold, shine off his helmet and off the eyes of the dragon. We had come to offer such a bargain. It would require the greatest levels of trust. We have the tools and we have the manpower and the dwarven craftsmen required to release you. But you would have to be patient.
How can I trust a dwarf? They hate my kind more than any. There's one among you.
The 3 peoples have united above the surface. Man, elf, and dwarf stand together. Each has their say, but each also listens. None will act out of turn.
I will not make a pact with you because I will not lower myself to such. Cannot make a pact with insects. But if you free me from this prison, it will be the orcs who suffer my wrath.
It would require some time and a great many laborers to enter this chamber, and they would have to work with their backs turned to you, a mighty beast of death. And you would bide your time, give us safe passage to see what you wish done.
I have waited here for a great many centuries, waiting for a chance at freedom. I can control my hunger for long enough.
Know that we have a great many weapons, and that we can also...
Weapons.
He stands, waiting, like, for that to wash over him. We will also bide our time, stay our hand, for the desire of us both to be met.
You could raise every hand in your army, and I would not quake.
Vareth walks forward, and he decides to boldly step and stand side by side with Cynric, and he says, "You will not be deprived food. You will not be treated any differently from any number of those within our ranks. But we would need certain assurances. I imagine..." How rude. I did not ask your name.
My name. No one ever asks. The orcs do not care. You will give me your name. You with the old blood.
I shall give it proudly. I am Faroth, son of Fardred, and we will liberate you. But as I said, or was going to say, that I imagine your freedom is something that you hold above all else, and we would need certain assurances. And first of all, that would require us knowing your name in return.
The creature puts its claws on the gold and like rears up, and it takes this big deep breath in, and you can see like this glow in its chest, and it into the ceiling, this great fire.
My name, Maroksar.
I am pleased to know it. Maroksar.
You will call me Lord.
I will not. As I was saying, we would need certain assurances. Long have you dwelled here, but without those assurances, you will dwell here still.
What kind of assurances?
Safe passage for our troops, and the word, an oath, that you will swear that when all is done, you will not turn on us.
Then I will have your assurance as well, that you will free me from this place, that no attempt will be made on my life, and that every single coin, every shred of wealth in this chamber comes with me.
Faroth shoots a panicked look at Killy.
From where he's been standing, the dwarf has been looking over the hordes, just trying to recognize any dwarven treasures amongst the pile. Silver and even gold, he can bring himself to allow the dragon as a keepsake, but he's looking over the dwarven treasures to see if there are any.
Many. Weapons, shields, suits of armor of the first age even. Things of amazing dwarven design. Many of those are piled closest to Moroxar.
The dwarf Killy takes off his helmet in a similar sign of respect to Cynaric and the others, and says, I know of your kind, and you are mighty in war, and mighty war leaders deserve titles. I have no qualms about calling you Lord Moroxar. I have only one lord, and that is the King Thorin Oakenshield of Durin's line. He is my lord, but I am happy to recognize other lords about the world, he says.
Wise. Faroth, son of Fardred. You will recognize me as Lord as well. A condition.
Killy, who looks to Thorin Oakenshield as king, would he be so easily separated from the treasures of his people? He looks over to Killy. This is something I cannot speak for.
I will not part with one single coin.
Who are you, Faroth, to speak of separating a dwarf from his treasure, says Killy. Where I heard when you first came to the capital of men, you came with a dwarf, did you not?
I did. The bravest
And
I've
where
met.
is he now?
Faroth's eyes sting at this dwarf who is giving him hassle when there is a huge fire-breathing dragon also breathing down their necks. And he looks at him and he just says, "Nah, fell." And he fell knowing that there are some things that are more important. I do not speak on behalf of the dwarves. I do not have the necessary authority to entirely parley with the treasure. It is why I look to you now, Master Dwarf.
Which of you leads? Who am I negotiating with?
You speak with an alliance. Lord Maraxar, apologies.
Armies are not ruled by committee. Who is the leader? Only they have authority to treat with me.
My king is Thorin Oakenshield. And Thorin Oakenshield has in this venture pledged his sword in this venture to Faroth, son of Fardred. Is that your name? He says. Checking.
Yes. Killy. My thanks.
So it is you.
The dwarf speaks the truth.
Then why do you consult them? The decision is yours to make.
It is wiser to listen to the opinions of many.
If you lack conviction, perhaps that is true.
My conviction has led me before you. How long has it been since someone stood and spoke with you, O mighty Maraxar? Is it a simple feat to stand before you?
You will tell me.
He rears up again, enormous, and lets out this roar. And the place shakes. You see like a bunch of the gold like skitter down the mountain that he's on. Can you all make a wisdom save?
That's a 21 from me.
That's
19,
a 20 for me. I've
19
done well.
from me and on the die.
Okay. So then Keely and Cynric, you are not terrified, but Faroth and Board, the two of you just have this fear, this gut-wrenching terror that comes across you at the enormity of this creature, the lethality and everything that it does, every movement that it makes. And you are frightened.
Board falls backward onto a heap of gold, and he's just splashes and a clink of coins everywhere. He doesn't pay any heed to the valuable rubies that he's stumbling upon as he backs away from this massive, terrifying creature.
Faroth,
Am I not terrible?
Faroth's mind goes to a moment where he's standing upon a frozen lake, it giving way beneath him. That same pit in his stomach returns now as he realizes perhaps he has taken a step too far in front of Cynric, and he stumbles backwards as the thing rears in terrible anger.
As you fall backwards, Cynric's hand is the one to reach down from that light and catch you and pull you to your feet. He is as resolute in all the terrifying things in this world as he normally is. He looks you in the face. Says very quietly, "Perhaps it is time to go."
And Killy runs up to your side and says, under his breath, "Do you want us to attack?"
Apologies, I was muted. Faroth looks to the reckless dwarf. And he looks back at the beast. Now, and how big is this thing, Lloyd? Just so I know, like looking at this thing, have we taken anything?
Its head is about the size of a horse.
Oh,
that's bigger than anything we fought before.
It's not
easily.
Smaug, but it's big.
Big, yeah.
Like, can't leave, It's kind of like, it's very much a serpent, like it's got legs and whatnot, but it's very like long and sinewy, and it's kind of wrapped around this this pile of treasure. The head is about the size of a horse. How long it is, it's hard to tell because it's like wrapped up.
Faroth would rather have this thing trapped, and whilst it's trapped, it get killed by either the machinations of our forces or taking the advantage away from the beast. Striking at it now would just be insanity with just the four of them. And he looks at the dwarf just with disbelieving eyes, unable to say anything.
Okay. So Cynric pulls you to your feet, and he looks back up at this huge dragon coiling around in its gold. We will return. And then he kind of like moves you with him as he goes to turn around. And as he is walking away, he's going to put the helmet back on.
No, no, you will free me.
In darkness, a smile. And a look to Faroth.
No!
Faroth is walking backwards, but there's another nonchalance about it. Like Faroth is taking steps backwards with facing this colossal beast. You have plenty of time, and his voice quavers. You don't know whether it's from fear or from the wound to his throat, but he says, "You'll have time to dwell on how you wish to continue this dialogue. You will have time."
As you guys round the corner, you can hear the it like it's coming towards, but as you like round the corner and then another, you can just see like the scaly dragon hand like come down the corridor a little bit and like try and grab, but it's unable to do so. And you can hear it screaming.
I do. Sorry, you go.
It is as the tales say, but nothing can do that justice. They are duplicitous, and their cunning is without end. I feel we've just made another enemy.
Dragons are enemies. It existed. You didn't make it an enemy. It existed.
But now it knows we're here. It can speak to the orcs as well as us, can it not?
But what can it do? It can go nowhere. It knows nothing of this place. Only
Neither
that
do
one
we.
room.
It came in at one time. It might have, and dragons have some memory. It might remember other places, but it will not be able to go there.
Kelly,
But we must find another way round it.
Kelly, you're right. There must have been a way that it came in originally. Perhaps another path. One that we could manipulate to our advantage. Lloyd, I'm going to make a roll to see if I can, Faroth can look at the surroundings. This is obviously not a terrain that he would be or have any advantage in whatsoever. But if you don't mind, I want to try and make a survival roll, perhaps, to see if there's some way we could work out how the dragon arrived. Admittedly, so long ago.
It came when it was small. That
Oh,
was,
of course it did. Yeah,
They brought it in when it was little, and then they kept it there until it was too big to leave.
Yes, yeah.
So like I imagine they get round the nearest corner, whatever, and come face to face with a more placid dragon, or drake, a smaller one.
It looks terrified. The dragon that you had, the drake you had control of. It's like sitting and it's like wrapped itself in a little bundle, basically, like its tail is in front of its face. It looks very frightened.
This is the first time Faroth has seen the creature. I like to think it's been skulking in the shadows, as it's the first time it's been mentioned this game. Faroth looks back
earlier, but you were unconscious, so yes.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't know what the helmet does. He just remembers this thing as something that tried to rip him apart as he fell down this throne stairs, or whatever. So he draws his blade.
Yeah,
So does Skinny.
it's been following us the entire time, but okay. Yeah, Cynric like steps forward between the combatants. Stay your blade, brother. And he says that like matter of factly, like it was CRO or something, and he like kneels to one knee and like runs a hand over the scales of this thing's snout.
Farrell looks horrified at you and he says, "What new devilry is this?"
While your man distracts this Drake, do you want me to sneak around and attack from behind?
How loud were you saying that?
I was whispering that to Faroth.
Right. Can I make a perception? Oh, I don't hear it. I turn around and say, I imagine we can still hear the roars and the smashing and stuff from around the corners echoing. Listen to that creature's desperation.
Yeah. There's a great sadness to like the screams, like sort of now the bluster is gone and it's desperation.
Sorry, yeah, he kneels down and looks back up to Faroth. This one will not hurt you anymore. Not as long as I wear this helm. It has been cowed by those orcs. Domesticated. It is our tool now. Our beast.
Farrell looks to his blade that's still in his hand, the Flame of the North, once a blade that had been corrupted by the Black Numenorean. He remembered how the blade had spoken and tempted and twisted the minds of those on this adventure. And he looks with the same horror at the helm that is now rested upon your head, and he says, "What power does such a thing grant you? What danger have you brought with you?"
This is what turned those forces after you fell. We turned their tools against them. That is what gained us our beachhead, our stronghold in the Dragon's Maw. It has burnt many orcs already and will burn more still. It gives us victory. This is what this helmet gives us.
You command a blasted thing of evil, Cynric.
He takes a step forward to Faroth, and yet you parley with a larger one in that room. You know what must be done. We must see this place taken. You were making acquaintances with a much more vicious beast in there, and yet we will have to go back and parley with it again. It is desperate. You can hear it. We hold the power. It holds none.
But at what cost?
Hopefully not the cost of more dwarves, elves, and men, of more lives.
I trust you as a brother, Cynric. I do not call your counsel or indeed your willpower into question. It has just not been the first time that we've encountered something that presented itself as a danger, at least at first. But you're right. The thing seems to be weeping. Bored. You know the wilds, you know beasts, you know creatures. This thing is different perhaps, but how would you deal with a trapped animal? How would you calm it to our cause?
I just rolled an 8 on my animal handling, or no, not my animal handling. Well, what would that be?
Animal handling, survival, one of those two.
Okay, well that's an 8. So Board looks you in the face, Faroth, and he says, he remembers every wolf every cat, every canine, every beast from the jungle, whether something out of the eastern woods or something out of the western mountains. He's seen many a beast. He's tamed many a beast. But you can see in his eyes, never anything like that. And then he shakes his head, he shrugs.
Yeah, Farrell just looks down.
This helm
What
goes... Sorry, you go.
Go, please.
No, he just mentions, what if you could convince it that, and he shudders. Then maybe, and he looks to Killy, and just kind of offhandedly, and he lowers his voice, though obviously you can still hear him. He says, "Perhaps the dwarves can share their new home." And he looks at this labyrinth around everyone. He says, "This is a large maze, one a dragon would..." He shudders again, just saying the word. "Make a home in, and not leave. Agree to your terms."
Farrell dwells in this for a moment, realizing that this would technically mean that we would not breach the contract made with the dwarves. They would have their homeland returned to them. They would have their gold within it. But he realizes what devastation that would wreak on the morals of everything we've done to this point. We just need to make sure that it believes that. Cynric, if this new helm that you bear, if it gives you some kind of connection with these fell things, then perhaps we can convince it. It is desperate, perhaps more susceptible. As his throat goes, you can tell he's like getting tired of this debate. You can tell that he's not having a good day.
Cynric stands from calming the creature as best he can, and he looks towards Varoth. Ever since I heard of that creature within there, I've considered what this helmet could do, what the sight of it, and what the sound of my voice could ply from that creature.
It did demand that you remove it.
It did. And I wondered if it recognized it. But I also wonder if it would have the will to resist it. And once I said something, once I gave it a command, I was not willing to risk whether it would lie, or whether it would lie upon that pile and beg for my hand, or whether it would scorch it off.
At this rate, we have but one option. If we cannot find another way around, despite us looking, then we must pass past that. We must go past the dragon. By whatever means necessary.
I mean, you think if you spent enough time searching, you would find the way, but it's a case of, hours, if not a day, every minute counts, I suppose,
Farrell didn't want to do this, but he's going to take the counsel that Cynric gave him before, and they've headed back to where some of the reinforcements they were taking into the defensible area with. So he's going to call to them, and he's going to say, "Those who can move quickest and quietest within the dark, those that can see the best, divide into scouting parties. We need to ascertain which routes lead where. And you can see he's giving that order because he feels that once again he's sending people to their deaths into the darkness of this labyrinth.
They nod and they set off in their various groups. While you wait here at the center for them to return, an hour goes by, and then 2, and then 4. One party returns saying they found only dead ends. Another says they found only ways that lead to the dragon, and still it roars. And more time goes by, more hours, until finally there is an elven patrol that returns. A little bit wounded, but still breathing. We found it.
Faroth looks at the party with gratitude that is probably impossible to describe. We can use this to our advantage. We now have more leverage over the dragon. We can inform it that we have found a way around, and therefore we do not need it. We can then use that to our advantage later if needs be, but for now, the other path. We've lingered far too long.
And with that, the troops begin moving through the labyrinth to this secret path and into the mountain proper, and begin to spread out through the mountain, finding different paths leading to the 3 different spires. What is the plan? Do you want to go? Which spire do you want to go to? Do you want to try and clear them all? Do you want to go straight for the top?
Does this come into the central area, or does it like favor one of the 2 other spires?
So this will lead into like a large central sort of area beyond. Okay. It's quite tunnely, but like it's behind the maze in the middle of the mountain. You think this is like the heart of the place. It's mostly abandoned, so obviously they have retreated to the various spires. You'll see occasional orc troops and stuff moving through the tunnels, but mostly it seems that the main forces have gone up.
Killy, this place is the site of your people's beginning. A legend through Durin's line. Is there anything you know of the 3 spires? Their purpose, perhaps, or any famous legend or tale?
With a stone cunning or history of...
I think history.
17?
So it's unclear. It's so old and so ancient, and it's been in the hands of the enemy for so long. You do know that the cloven spire was not always cloven in half. You know that the twisted spire was not always twisted in such a awful way, that once there were just 3 peaks here, but like the corruption and the hate of the enemy has like changed and shifted the appearance of this place so that now it's like a hateful and cruel countenance.
This place is no true dwarven mountain anymore. It will take years, maybe centuries, to turn it into the holy dwarven stronghold that it started out as. All I would suggest is go for the biggest, the tallest of the spikes. If we take their main stronghold, maybe the resistance in the others will collapse.
You speak with wisdom. While we have the forces to take the larger spire, it must be now. The central spire it is.
So the troops begin moving. It's hard fighting getting up there. It's hard fighting in every step of the way, every gatehouse, every little trap and encampment. It is a fortress in every step of the way. And you lose a great many making your way up through all these gatehouses and through all these various defenses. And it takes a day, and then it takes 2 days, of just fighting and stopping and regrouping and then fighting and stopping and regrouping. Before you come upon this strange thing that you see, there's like a huge iron door. You don't have to go there, but on your sort of left as you move, this huge iron door. It's covered in like weird eldritch orcish sort of carvings and things like that, black speech. And there's like a greenish light coming from behind that door. Many of the troops have like reported, like the scouts have come back to you to report that they can hear like whispering and chanting from behind it. And they ask, should we continue upwards or should we deal with it?
We don't want to leave a potential threat to our back. Not when the taking of the central spire is so critical. We clean every level as we go. Draw swords.
They do.
Axes.
Gauntlet.
The door itself is iron and large, and you can hear now this like this weird sort of chanting going on. And as you kind of like draw the weapons, there's a and the door collapses outward. And there's like this weird greenish sort of fog, and then out of it, all of a sudden, these things come. They're orcs, but they're not orcs. They have been like mutated or like something awful. Like one of them comes out with 3 arms. One of them has 2 heads like fused together. These weird creatures that have been changed somehow by dark sorceries. And behind them is an old orc sort of bent over. He's got this like staff, and you can see that he has one good eye and it's bright green. He like looks out over and he curses in black speech. We're going to take a quick break there before we get into this.
Nice.
All right, back in 2 seconds. I'm back.
Jesus Christ, Lloyd. I had to keep like, especially when you started, I had to mute myself just for the nervous laughter and the oh my god, what is going on? That worked rather well.
The modulator is good, isn't it? Like I used it before in an Isclaf game, but I think like it, rather than me going, oh, I'm a dragon, like it just like adds a lot to it, I think.
Yeah. Not something I expected.
Yeah.
Christ almighty. Oh.
And it's not like Smaug, you know, it's not like one of the named dragons, but it's still a dragon, you know? Like, even with no wings, even if it's not nearly as big as Smaug, it's still a terrifying monster.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I figure Cynric was holding on by a thread, trying not to let that on, but good grief.
And Killy is all bravado.
Yeah. I'm just curious. With the terrified dragon, like, so it's not like, so as long as I wear the helmet or whatever, it's not like just numb to everything. Like there is a beast inside that I don't know if I comforted or not. If there is.
Yeah, it's. I mean, so it will never go for you when you have the helm.
Sure.
And it can like sense basically who's with you and who's against you and things like that. And it will generally wait for you to tell it what to do, but it'll defend itself, if it gets hassled. But I just think I like the idea of it like knowing that there's like a big daddy around the corner and it being terrified.
I absolutely was not going to take it in there.
Yeah.
Partly for its own sake and partly for ours.
Yes. Might have been like, you would obey me.
Or just kill it, or like you dare enslave my kind.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not gonna put us on the right foot.
Tactical question, Lloyd. Rather a question of tactics, not a tactical question. How many do we have with us? Is it a small party, like scouted forward?
So I'm gonna say that we're gonna like do there's quite a lot of you and there's quite a lot of them, so we'll do the thing that I tend to do, which is like you will fight the central part of the battle, and then depending on how well you do, that's how the whole battle will do.
That's fine. That's just what I wanted to know, because I think Faroth is gradually learning from his mistakes and is probably going to try and attempt to command this battle and direct the forces, because he needs to start pulling his finger out. He needs to start being a bit more decisive. The dragon's words probably took things to heart. He can't. Well, the thing is, he can't let his own misgivings about becoming a leader or whatever cost him the battle. So he has to step up. Like that's probably what's going through his mind, I reckon. So I'll do my best to try and outflank. Maybe we can try and outflank them, perhaps. But these things sound horrible.
I might have to watch that back, just partly just to write that whole bit down again, but also because I really, really want to see Rob's face when that modulator hit the first time. I imagine it was glorious.
Oh my goodness. It's same in Saga, like it just caught me so off. I was like,
yeah. I was saying to Lloyd, I had to like mute myself to go, oh God, what's going on?
Good.
It's so good.
I just need to regulate my pitch back down again.
And breathing. Oh
yeah. Yeah. Cynric was holding on by a thread, I think. It was acting very cool, but it was...
I really loved Cynric's "It is a gift." That was like, oh, it's a weapon of the enemy and we can use it against them. Like, yes.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
I noticed that as well.
I was waiting for that scene.
Well, Baragon isn't here now, is he? So
yeah, true.
Roll initiative. We'll get that sorted.
Sure.
I've already rolled mine. I rolled it basically as soon as I heard you describing them. I was like, motherfuckers.
Are you rolling for the drakeling? Do you want to go my turn? Okay, cool. Oh, yeah. I knew that conversation was coming, and like I didn't want to like get in the way of people doing stuff. That's why I described it a little bit like in the background. But that was a cool scene.
Very cool.
And my whip.
Well, it's just leading on from what Barker said last session, because he said "of my fist" last time. So they'll just rotate, and we'll see how much life that joke has.
Poor board, Barker. The big guy seemed terrified.
Yep.
I was terrified.
So reasonable.
I was like, oh, dragon.
Okay, so these things come bursting out of this like mist. These like weird mutated orcs, like they have these like long arms and they walk on all fours, kind of like a gorilla would, and they're like rumbling towards your lines, kind of swollen and big, not like a troll. Like the proportions are off and incorrect, and one arm is longer than the other, and you can see one of them has like two heads that have been fused into one. There's this very, very wide mouth, horrifying to look at. There's this other thing that has two arms and then one arm on its back, and then the third that has like his jaw is like expanded to the size where you can no longer close it, and just these great tusks sticking out where the orc's teeth would usually be. And behind that strange, old-looking orc with the staff and the glowing eye. Farath, you're first.
Faroth maybe just briefly glances the array of enemies before them before he starts barking out orders as hard as he can, considering his throat is so painful. He says, Cyneric, take the fight to the center of them. Board to the left flank. Killy with me to the right. And he watches as the men divide into three groups to try and push forward and then wrap around the charging horde in an attempt to stop it dead. So he's got mechanic. He's also gonna. He's actually gonna move back. He wants to be behind the line to the right with Killy.
Okay, so these things are like rushing forward. These are the three that I described, but there are maybe 50 of them, and your troops begin to move in the way you command. This old, sort of decrepit-looking orc, Golgor, the flesh crafter, he like steps forward, and he like looks out over the field, and his like eye is scanning until it sees you, Faroth, of course. And it mutters something in black speech. I guess you can understand. King's blood, no king. And I need you to make me a wisdom saving throw, please.
Oh man. Would I have inspiration that I've not used in a long time? I don't think I've used any in a while, but it's up to you if it carries over. If it doesn't,
it
I
does,
won't be offended.
But I don't remember. I don't keep track of you guys.
No, you know what? Like, don't worry about it. I will. It's fair's fair. Let's see how. Oh, okay, that's pretty good. That is a 22.
Okay.
Right.
So he like locks eyes with you, or eye with you rather, and you like look into it, and you can see just this like flash of the eye, of the great eye, above Barad-dûr. Just this awful terror comes over you for a moment, and then you like shake it away, and you are able to resist his effect. He's going to walk behind his creatures and command them to kill. Board.
Does this affect Board in any way? He takes his position on the left.
He just looked at Faroth for now.
Excellent. He goes to the left, and he the charge is so slow, but so quick in hindsight. He's before it, and then he's in it. There are no front lines to those in the first one. He slams into those enemies in front of him. He is making for the whatever first. I think it might be the 3-arm one that's the one that Board is facing, but whichever the primary mutated orc creature in front of Board, he's gonna duck down and attempt to strike him in the gut and do something, anything at all. He's not thinking. To him in this moment, it's kill or be killed.
That's a hit.
Nine points of damage. Thank you. Does it feel like anything is done?
You have the gauntlet, right? So this 3-arm thing is in front of you, and it's like you can see like one of its arms grabs one of the nearby troopers, and it like boom, smashes a headbutt into it, and then you just like boom, punch the gut in, and you can see that it leaves a mark, and it lets out this like roar in your direction. And the arm on its right-hand side and the one on its back both turn to strike you.
And I miss them both with my hatchet, with my second attack. Just swipes right over them.
Alrighty. This strange fused two-headed thing is like running forward on all fours. Boom, 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 towards you, Cynric. It's going to try and strike at you. Bite you with that disgusting mouth.
Okay.
Ooh. So it rolls 15 and 15, so there'll be a total of 21 on each. Hit.
Yeah, that hits.
It's 12 for the first and 15 for the second.
27 damage in one go. Okay, that's out of my health.
It opens up this mouth. The two heads kind of like open up at the same time, and like their mouths are fused, and so this like enormous like jaw just like clamps shut down around your shoulder, and you can feel like the teeth sink into your flesh as it stands before you. The Drake is standing by your side, and it like looks at you for orders.
I know. I am engaging this creature and being bitten at it, but maybe I managed to pull away for a moment out of its grasp. Burn.
And burn it shall. It like takes this deep breath and sets out this big woof of flame. The two-headed thing in front of you is not quick enough to move out of the way, and it will take significant fire damage. You can roll me 6d6.
Oh. 28 damage.
Oof.
With the burning. Those were some good dice.
It like recoils back away from you. It like tries to cover its faces with its hands. As like the fire licks all around it. It seems to hate it. And it roars in pain. And it's your turn.
Light of the fire, reflecting off the helmet and reflecting off the slits that show his eyes. There is a smile, and then he presses the attack. The axe sings. That's a non-natural 20 to hit, and a 16 to hit.
They both hit.
Oh, okay. Oh, come on. I can't see the dice in the dark. I'll find it. Right, got it. Uh, 24 damage from the two swings.
Okay. I kill it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so he presses onto the back foot after having been nearly savaged to death, nearly probably losing a limb. Shield maybe slightly buckled or twisted. And then there is the smile, and he launches forward, the axe singing through the air. One blow striking into perhaps around the leg. I'm not sure how big this thing is, but like brings it down onto one knee, and then he sort of rounds and with a Aragorn-esque swing, like brings it up and round again, burying the axe into the spine that connects into the two heads at the back.
Yeah, it like twitches weirdly as it like starts to like die. It like lashes out with its hands and its legs until finally it like hits the ground and continues twitching for a moment and then twitches no more. The three-armed thing opposite you, Board, is going to unleash a trio of fists. Two of them will hit you, I think. Does 17 hit you?
17 hits me just.
Okay.
Or just hits me, depending on who you ask.
It's going to be 15 total from the 2 punches. I rolled very poorly. It like swings once, glances, and then again upwards. But neither of them are like connect with anything too breakable in your body. They hit soft tissue as opposed to brittle bones. And it's and then the third one comes over the back of it, but you're able to duck that one. And it roars. There's this like fetid smell of its breath as it roars in your face. Great Jaw is barreling towards you, Keely, and where Faroth is, I imagine you're standing before him, and so it's going to run at you, and it's going to try and bite you. It's going to try and grab you first. So can you make me athletics, please?
Yep.
DC is 20.
So I get a... No, I rolled a 19 and I've got a few pluses, so...
Yeah, no problem. So it tries to grab you, and it does for a second. It like grabs your right arm, but you like shake it free, and then it tries to, with this mouth so big it cannot close, tries to bite you. And that's almost certainly going to hit for a 22.
Yep. Is 22 the damage or 22 the hit?
To hit. Damage is 15 as well. So this great sort of jaw opens and then like closes briefly in your arm. You're able to like pull it out before it tears the arm off, and it's right in front of you. And it's your turn.
Still sort of slightly caught in its shoulder, as it's munching on his shoulder, he swings his axes down at its legs, just trying to fell the beast, with a 15, a 14, and an 18.
The 14 doesn't hit, but the others do.
Okay, so he does a total of 13 points of damage. And he sucks in his breath and shouts, Condom belongs to dwarves, giving himself a second wind. Oh no, he can't do that with his third attack, so he'll save that.
It's all good. The thing hears you shout, but does not seem to listen or understand even. It's got this simple sort of stupid look in its face. And we're back to the top. Faroth.
Yeah, Faroth is watching as the three groups of their forces lock with these abominations. And his eyes go to this fell creature that had tried to ensorcel him or bewitch him with the power of Sauron himself. And he is going to level his bow, and he's going to fire 2 shots. The first one will be a 21.
Okay.
Second one will be a 17.
Okay. So you fire, and the arrows are sailing through, and the thing can see that happening, and it lifts up its staff and hits it against the ground, and there's like this, and the arrows are flung away from it to cast shield to resist those. And it like looks at you.
Faroth watches in dismay as his arrows become naught but ash before this creature, and he says, "Press on, push forward to the sorcerer," and he's going to will his men to basically put pressure on that particular orc side.
Yeah, you can see they're struggling to get through this line of these weird mutated orcs, but they shout an approving scream. Okay, that was Faroth. Golgor, seeing you giving the commands, is going to try and mess with you again. He like begins to incant, and he's like waving his staff around. You see him like jump from one leg and then to the other leg, and he's like doing some sort of weird chant. And then all of like the almost comedic movements stop, and he just like looks and points the staff, and there's a and something fires from it. I need you to make a dex save, and Keely make a dex save as well, please.
That's more like it. Dex save.
Can you make one for your men around you as well?
Oh, okay. That's 24 on my dex save for my men, rolling a d20. I roll a 9 on the d20, so whatever bonus they get, Lloyd.
Yep.
And I get a 20.
Okay, very nice.
You've got a natural, but a 20.
Rad.
Ooh. So you will both take 17 fire because you succeeded. Your men are going to suffer badly. So you see, as it like travels through the air, it's a trick. He's throwing one of these things you've seen before, this like little pot of looks like iron or maybe clay or something, and it's like you can see in the air that it's like, and as it hits the ground, it just this massive woof of fire. The creatures with him like cheer, and he seems pleased that everyone thinks that was some sorcery, when in fact it's orcish trickery. And the flames lick, and you see several of your men kind of like burnt alive. That's going to be it for him. Board.
Board is hit. He ducks down and he dodges the third blow. He reaches up, or reaches back, grabs his feasts a grip or something on his hatchet and brings it up into the creature away from the many arms, and he rolls a 1. I critically fail in however way you choose.
Okay, so maybe it's a case of like you swing the hatchet, and if it was any normal person, they wouldn't have the quickness, but because of this third hand, it's able to like grab your hand, and so now it's got grapple. You're both grappled with each other.
Excellent.
Two Heads is going to look down, flaming, screaming. It seems to be crying, this thing, and it's going to try and mess up the little dragon.
Is it not dead? I thought you said it fell, and I cut it.
Oh, it did fall. Sorry. Yep.
I apologize.
No, that's good. I would have forgotten. I'll cross it off my list here. Okay, the Drake then. So I do have stats for that. Burn is like a recharge situation.
Yeah, I thought so. I wasn't going to command it to do it again. So I was told to push onto the sorcerer. Is that what fighting?
The sorcerer.
Okay, I could have gone and helped someone else, but I think the sorcerer is on the cards. Can I fight my way towards the sorcerer? Can I make it, or is it like I'm busy for this turn, putting my way through? Or...
No, you can. You kind of like duck under the huge swollen arm of one of these things that like crushes one of your allies, one of the men with you, and you like duck under that and move through. Towards the sorcerer.
In that case, yeah, the sorcerer, and I don't know what the black speech for sorcerer is, but maybe Cynric does, and he will point at the dragon to make his way, and then he'll quickly follow after, and we'll reach the sorcerer.
So the dragon can bite or claw. It can claw twice or bite once.
Let's go for a claw.
Okay.
Oh, 2 claws.
I will give you these stats at the end of the game.
That's fine.
All right, so it gets a crit on its first claw. It misses the second. Okay.
Sorry?
Hey, I gave it to you. Okay. So can you roll me? I need to get the thing out. I think it's a D10.
The D10 is an 8.
Okay. Boom. An 8. Okay. So it the dragon Drake rears up and like slashes with the first claw, and like right across the face of this this orc sorcerer. The second one like misses because he reels back. The 8 is a minor scar. It doesn't look minor. It's like these 3 slashes all down the side. Luckily, the side where his eye is already gone, or he would have lost that eye. And he reels back, blood pouring from his face. Okay, and then it's your turn.
Right. I'm not sure. I wanted to do something really cool and like run up the dragon and jump off it, but I'm not sure how sensible that is. I think I'll like maybe barrel like trying to chase the dragon. I imagine like through these abominations, and he like Cynric is slightly behind because he had to barrel into one of them. He stands and sees this creature. Sorcerer reeling under the assaults of the dragon, and kind of shifts a little bit to the side and comes in, hammering away with the axe at like a mid-drift kind of level. First one is a 24. Next one is a 16 again.
Okay, 24 hits.
Okie dokie. 13 damage with the axe.
Nice. Yep. So you slash into the sort of gut of this orc, and he like reels back from you. His like eye is like spinning in its socket, and then it like locks onto you. It's quite a frightening sight. 3 arms. It's got you bored with one of its arms, and it's going to take the other 2, and he's going to try and pummel you into the dirt. For a 21 for the first and a 18 for the second. So I think those both hit. Oh, he has 3 arms.
I think he also has advantage because I'm grappled, so he gets like 2 rolls for each strike, probably.
You don't.
You're not restrained.
No.
Grappled.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha.
You just can't move, basically, is what it is.
Perfect.
And neither can he. So he can't grapple you with, or can't punch you with a third arm because he's holding you with it. So.
I mean, you could let go and then punch him with it if he wanted to be more savage.
Oh, he's being romantic, but he's holding my hand.
I love the idea that he might lift you up and then use you as a punching bag.
I love that he has so many arms, he doesn't know what to do with them. What am I doing?
19 bludgeoning altogether. He like lifts you off the floor for a second, and then one of them like catches you, boom, in the leg, and the other one like backhands you upwards. And for a second, like you see stars before you like come back to earth. Great Jaw in front of Keely is going to try and bite you.
Try your best.
Twice, but twice he misses. He like tries to get near you, but you are too quick, and your dwarven harbor is holding its own, and it's unable to get any attacks on you.
He's laughing, but his dodging out of the way has taken him too wide as his axes swing out at the thing, but only on his 3rd attack does he connect for 6 points of damage.
Okay, Doug. You know, I think you have a thing because you're a dwarf that you can re-roll your damage die if it's an orc or an orcish.
Oh yeah,
thing.
if I can. Oh, I can, and I didn't last time either. But I'll just see. Still 6. I'm just having terrible luck.
No problem. It all adds up. Okay, back to the top. Farath.
He's obviously very pleased that Cynric has started hacking his way towards the sorcerer. He needs to... The problem that's running through his mind is that sorcerer presents a threat that means that he will have to close the distance, because at range, obviously, he's going to be useless. In terms of the tide of the battle, Lloyd, what can Faroth tell, and what would require his assistance the most, just from looking at it? I don't expect, like, tell me how to win.
Yeah. So it looks like you guys are holding your own. You have lost quite a few, particularly from the sorcerer's fire. But also these things are huge, and they are occasionally like just picking people up and throwing them, or like smashing them. But you think that if it was just them and you would grind them down. And but the thing, that's the problem, is obviously the sorcerer. You know, you can see like greenish light in some of the eyes of these creatures, so you think that he's also controlling them to some extent.
Yeah, he still has to. He still has to act. He can lead from the back as much as he like, but at the end of the day, his blade needs to be at the front. So he draws the Flame of the North, the spark shining from it in the darkness, and he moves to close the distance between him and the Flesh Crafter. Is he too far away though, Lloyd? Now, because I did withdraw, as you recall at the beginning.
I don't know how far you could have gone because it's like not a huge area, you know. So I actually don't think you could have gone too far back. You can still get to him.
Okay, so Faros goes, with me! And he starts like pressing forward from the right flank to try and slice at Golgor. And he'll attack then in that case. The first one being a 22. The second being a 21.
Okay, both hit.
Perfect. Let's see. So that's 19 points of slashing damage from the first attack, and 16 from the second as he closes the distance and begins slicing wildly at this fell thing.
It's getting it from all sides now. It's got the Drake and Cynric on one side and you on the other. It's standing in the middle of you, and it like looks, but the eye is like locked on Cynric. It like turns around to look at you, Farth, but you can tell that the eye is like turned all the way around. It's still looking at Cynric. And then like turns back and looks at him again. It's going to like utter a curse, and I will need Cynric to using magic. What? Confusing.
The idea of his eye staying where it is and him moving is horrifying to me. I just want to say that.
It's pretty gross. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay. So he like reaches into his robes and pulls out this like little vial, this like little vial of greenish liquid, and he like pulls out the stopper, and like he drinks it, and then he goes towards you and your little dragon friend Cynric.
Okay.
It's this awful like stench and this like greenish, disgusting miasma, and you start to feel weak immediately. I'll need you to make a con save, please.
Okay.
The dragon nailed it.
Oh, I'm glad someone did. I'm proficient in Constitution. That brings my 8 up to a 14.
You'll take 17 radiant damage.
Oh, interesting.
And you suffer a level of exhaustion.
Oh God.
Is what happens there. You also like.
Sorry.
There's also like it's like when you like breathe it in or whatever, you can see Farah that it's like now surrounding Cynric. He seems to like be giving off light to some extent. This like weird thing around him. And the thing between you is like cackling. That's going to be it for Golgor. Board.
I can take some damage, even though it passed. Just for notes.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, fair enough.
Board gets knocked in the head, and then he comes right back, bringing his gauntlet up against the arm that's holding his left wrist. The gauntleted hand just hitting him right in the bicep twice for a 15 and a 16.
Those both hit.
Excellent. Cool. 15 total damage on this guy's arm. This one arm.
Yeah. You can give me an athletics because he's going to maybe let go of you. He will let go of you. He gets a 7. So unless you rolled worse than that, which I can't imagine. Yeah. So it's just, and he just like, let's go, and rolls back from you, or tries. 2 heads is dead. Okay. The Drake.
Cynric is coughing and spluttering as the mist clings to him. Kill it! Kill it! Kill it! Goes to dog speech.
It moves forward and will try and do so. It hits once. Okay. This sorcerer looks like he's barely standing at this stage, although he doesn't look worried about that fact. There's a smile on his face as the dragon like slashes him again with the claw. And then it's your turn. I need you to make another con save at the start of your turn.
12.
Okay, you're going to take damage again.
Okay.
Only 7 this time.
Okay.
Are you under 1/5 of your health? Of your hit points? Your maximum?
That puts me on 51 damage out of 75.
No, so you're fine.
So I have 24 left.
Right.
So
Not fine, but
Yeah.
No, not fine. But how is this like manifesting? Is it kind of lung damage, or am I bleeding from the eyes and ears, or is it like melting at me, or?
Yeah, it's making you cough a lot, and you just like feel really weak and exhausted. I guess you would see him like look older, like bags appear under his eyes, maybe a little bit more gaunt as he like stands in this strange mist.
It clings to me. He wouldn't try and move away from it. I guess he would try slay the evil creature. 19 to hit, and then a natural 20.
Okay.
I haven't seen one of those in a while. The 19 is 9 damage, which is my minimum, and then the next one is only 17 because I rolled quite poorly for the crit.
That will do it.
So like coughing and like waving his shield or something, trying to get, you see, very lackluster, trying to get this cloying stuff away from him. He kind of like bull rushes the cackling sorcerer and just like brings his axe down repeatedly into the fleshy trunk of this sick being.
It reels backwards and like he falls onto his back and then like just shrivels, and you can see like the skin tighten very quickly as if he's aging very quickly until there's like naught but bones there. The creatures beyond let out this like howl, and now they look afraid more than they look angry. And I'm gonna roll to see what happens.
I knew this thing was going to explode on me.
The big creatures, the mutants, free of whatever was holding them in place. Many of them like run back into the room they came from, like flee. And as they flee, like your troops will cut. You can each make a opportunity attack as the one in front of you runs away. So Keely and Board can do that.
Well, I get a crit.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
A natural 20.
That's probably going to kill the one in front of you.
19 unnatural.
That's a hit.
So the one in front of me, just from normal damage, takes 19.
Oof. Okay, so Great Jaw in front of you, Keely. You take it down as it tries to flee. The three-armed one in front of you, though, Board, you like deal it a parting blow, but it continues to flee. It's using all three of its arms to like run as quickly as it can, and its two little stumpy legs to get back into that room. You see many of them are retreating into that room, and when they get there, are just hiding, or like, I mean, they're not hiding because they're enormous, but they're trying to hide, like they're in corners and like putting their hands over their faces.
Oh.
That was Cineric's turn, was it? He killed the sorcerer. Okay, yes. Three Arms is going to hide in that room as Greatjaw is dead. Keely, it's your turn.
Keely goes charging after Three Arms to try and stop him getting away. Will he be able to?
Yes. Yep. So you'll be able to enter that room, and you can see it's like some sort of lab. There's all these like strange slabs and stuff. You can see there's some like dead orcs there with like chest cavities open, and like you can see there's potions and tinctures all over the place, and these like green flame braziers all over the place. And the things that have fled are now like in this room, and they're like in the corners, and they're like hiding or trying to hide.
If I'm able to Three Arms, I double crit him and then I fumble.
Jesus.
Okay. So you'll absolutely destroy him. But I think maybe in like your fury, it's just like hacking and hacking and hacking. And then like the last one, you're going to, fling the axe somewhere. Something like that. That's all of them. So there's a kind of a ragged cheer that goes around as like the things flee into the room, and then the troops chase them and like put down those that had fled to ensure like these monstrosities don't get out of here ever. There's haunted looks in the faces of many of the men at like what foulness this is. So unnatural, so wrong. Orcs are already wrong, but now this is a whole other level.
We fight well, men. Gather these fell creatures, pile them, we'll burn them, we'll rest for an hour, and then we'll press on.
You do so, you burn them, you take a brief rest, and then you continue on your way. You come to what the dwarves would call the 9,000 stairs. This is like the final bit before you come to what was once the throne room of Durin the Deathless. This enormous staircase, and it is an uphill battle. There are orcs along it the entire way. It's exhausting. For hours, you fight up this stairway. All of the men with you, elves with you, dwarves with you, the heroes now with you, Glorfindel, Thranduil, Celeban, Elrohir, Arwen, all of the elven lords here with you. Thorin down below somewhere still. But the king, Gurney, is with you, of the Firebeards. And this great advance up this this endless stairway until you enter into what is a throne room. It is the biggest and most impressive throne room you've ever been in, and you've probably been in quite a few. There's this stairway that leads in to the very, very peak of the mountain, and there's huge fires burning from these two huge, basically, fire pits. There's a huge golden throne, gold and mithril, of dwarven design, and also of like volcanic glass that stands at the center of this throne room. Behind it are these huge banners hanging down, symbols of Sauron, symbols of Gundabad, and sitting on that throne expectantly is the Black Numenorean. There are guards here, all in this black elite uniform, and there's this chanting. Around each of the giant fire pits, there are 9 orcs in robes, and a further 9 in heavy armor, and they are chanting. There's drums, boom, 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 Valar, Rogar, boom, 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 over and over again. And the last thing you see is Beregond. He's unconscious and he's hanging from the wall in manacles. He looks deathly pale, and you can see that there are black veins spreading through his body, a Morgul wound.
No.
The Black Numenorean rises and, with echoing footsteps, descends from the throne. He says, Y estel vinta ambarena lomeo. Hope fades into the world of night. Ilacanor et Arthon Guanen. The flame of the sun has left the world. Siu tul yelwe metana. We have come now to the end. Sidanatha nova. The darkness will now fall. The chanting reaches this ridiculous fever pitch. Boom, 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 boom. Valar, Rogar, boom, boom, boom. The fires swell up and explode upwards, and they meet in the center between the two fire pits. And they form this great ball of fire, and they seem to drink in all of the shadows from the corners of this room, this huge room. And then this shape forms, this ancient, deathless, enormous shape. You see a great eye, and then another, and then this skull-like face, and horns, and shoulders, and leathery wings of flame. Until finally, with this thud, so violent that it knocked all of you to the ground, it's standing there. Creature of the First Age, a creature of shadow and flame, a Balrog of Morgoth. Lets out this terrible roar, and you can see the Black Numenorean is chanting and looking at it and smiling. It extends its right hand, and a great axe appears. Initiative.
We rested for like an hour, or it took a long time to fight up. And if I was further back, could I have short rested for some hit points?
You would have gotten the hour's worth of rest, which is a hit die if you still have them, if you haven't spent them all. You haven't taken a long rest.
I have not, so I will spend some, so I'm not on a third health for this fight.
You're not in a position to complain about health, man. I can promise you that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm all right. But I'm definitely not basically at my best, is all I'll say, when fighting a friggin' Balrog.
Feroth brings the little vocoder to his throat. Yes.
Forward.
Oh, grief. Can we choose a different spire now?
At the very top of the tallest one.
No, I'm saying
We'll be back later.
Oh. Buddy owned Drake.
I'm strangely mediocre at initiative, given that I have advantage on rolls. I'm always getting 12 or less, except for the last fight.
The thing at the center of the room, it turns and roars. So unbelievably loud. It shakes the foundations of this room. And it like expands in size, and flame shoots in every direction as it like shows its true, terrible, awesome form. And it like seeks through the people assembled, and you can see that it looks at Glorfindel, gives this look at the Elven Lord, and its head turns to the side, and it says something, but it's not even black speech, it's something else. It just sounds like the rumble of fire, just this noise that I cannot even make. And Glorfindel like looks at it, and maybe there's fear in the Elf Lord's face. As it roars and it increases in size, I'm going to need all of you to make a con save, please.
Better than wisdom. Modified 20.
11.
Okay, so Board and Cineric, the heat that is given off by this thing and this like force, it's not even anything tangible, it's just this like aura of like primal terror that runs through you. You are going to have disadvantage on your first round of attacks, as like the heat overwhelms you, like sweat pours down your face. You see Glorfindel and Thranduil and Elrohir and Arwen and Eladan rush towards the Balrog, their elven blades glinting. And they like look back at you and they point at the Numenorean who is chanting. And Glorfindel says, "Do it! You know what must be done!" And he rushes towards the Balrog. Keely.
Killy knows what must be done, and he'll try and barge his way past some of. You said there were some orc wizards or sort of those types. If there are any near fire pits, he's going to try and knock them into fire pits as he barges past and tries to get to the Numenorean.
Excellent. Yep, you can give me athletics, please.
So that's just a second. Oh, 25.
Excellent. So you're like running towards the Numenorean with both axes out, and you like shoulder. No, it's okay. You like smash into one of these like heavily armored orcs, and he, as he falls, grabs one of the robed orcs and pulls him down into the fire pit with him. You're able to reach the Numenorean.
Can I make my second attack then?
Yes, please.
Or not? So it's an AC of 27.
That'll hit.
For I suppose it's an orc.
It's not an orc.
So he hits it for 7 points of damage.
Okay, no problem. The Numenorean is like
third attack.
Go ahead.
Third attack. He hits an armor class of 24.
Yep.
For 8 points damage.
Okay, nice.
Then he action surges and attacks again.
Excellent. Go for it.
So yeah, just everything rolled together.
AC is 21.
At 20. So the first blade attack hits, second misses, and third misses. So he only hits one more time for 11 more.
Excellent. So you rush up to this Numenorean and you slash a bunch of times. Many of them are blocked by the black plate. And he's like looking at you, but he's still mouthing and like speaking some sort of black speech. It is his turn. He is going to look down at you. He's going to reach behind him and pull the enormous sword from his back, and he's going to attack. Okay. So it's a 21, a 19, and a 22.
Yes, all three hit.
Going to be 32 points of damage in total for the 3 attacks.
Okay.
So this sword moves incredibly quickly. A huge sword moving quicker than it should be able to. And he like slashes down at you, and all the time he's chanting, and he keeps looking back to the creature. Faroth.
How much damage was that, sorry?
That was
32.
32.
32. Okay.
So I took the liberty of pre-rolling, but what you see is this. Faroth looks to the Balrog, towering flames sprouting up its spine like a mane. And somehow he's able to wrench his gaze from it at the call of the elves to look at the Black Numenorean and watches as it strikes Philly. He looks to Beregond upon the wall and he says, "You do not idly lay a hand upon the wardens of Minas Ithil. He will be revenged." And he reaches back into his quiver, in which he finds something that he's had with him from the very beginning. He pulls forth a Numenorean arrow, an artifact that he has carried from the time they stood before Denethor. And I shit you not, he knocks, he draws, and he critical hits with the Numenorean arrow, presenting 20 points of damage. He also gets disadvantage on his next turn. And whatever I do with a crit, Lloyd, as the arrow sails, returning it to Numenor, as it were.
Amazing. He like looks briefly in the direction and then sees the arrow, and it just and it goes through the armor, which he would never expect, but it's forged in old Numenor. So roll me a d10, please.
D10, sir. 1.
Okay. And a d20.
That is a 17.
Okay, so here's what happened. He like has the sword in his right hand, and he sees the arrow come. He like lifts his hand as if to ward it off, and the arrow goes right through his hand. And like there's like this, and he's like flung backwards. You see he like tries to lift it, but the hand is useless. It's pierced with the Numenorean arrow. Effectively, he's lost a hand, which is super nice.
I miss with my second attack, so don't worry about it.
Okay. So he looks at you, and his eyes narrow, and this will be the hour of your meeting at long last. Cynric.
Just been reminded before when you said you drew the large sword before the Numenorean arrow, we got a very large scimitar and a set of armor along with the dragon and the helm that we were going to get some stats for. It's just a thought. I didn't know if you had them.
I do, yeah, but yeah, I don't think it would have been done yet. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, Cynric puts his hand up, like with the shield on, probably to protect him from the blaze, the sheer heat. As the other two run past him, he looks up at Board. If this is where we die, brother, I'm glad it is next to a Bjorning.
The word surprise, Board. He's shielding himself from the flame and the heat, and there's the sounds of steel drawn and clashed all around. And he looks and he nods and he says, "And I, a rider of Rohan."
There is a nod, last look, and he follows after his friend in slow motion with the music blaring, with a dragon on his heels. Unless something has happened to that dragon.
That's a good question. I don't know how it would react to seeing a Balrog. I don't know how anything would react to seeing a Balrog.
Me too. I mean, it can be busy savaging orcs and like helping us get there.
It might just be frozen in place.
Okay.
I'll roll and see what the story is.
It can be part of the cinematic combat. That's fine.
Sure.
So yeah, he like to make his way to the Numenorean to cut through after his friends. As I imagine, like the gap is closing as the orcs are pressing in. He sends the dragon in with a command of death, and pushes by to to the enclosure, I imagine, around the Numenorean now. And then I will... Can I get to him? And is he standing
Yes.
again by the time I get to him?
Yep.
Okay. I'll begin a dance of death. That is not a way to begin the dance of death. Okay. Oh, I went from the first one was a 2, very much missed, and the next one was a 19, which does not crit. But +8, so 27 or so.
Yep.
And he will strike true. He will strike true for 14 damage. And that will be his contribution.
All right. So he's surrounded now, the Numenorean. He calls out, "To me!" And these orcs, all in black plate, each with a long halberd, run forward, and they're going to like enter into the fray, try and protect their master. So one of them is going to try and strike at you, Cynric, for 17 for the first.
That hits. Wouldn't if I was on a horse. But no, actually, because of the helmet. The helmet gives me an extra AC. That actually doesn't hit. Thank God. Can't really take them.
The next one is higher. It is a 23.
Into me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that hits.
It'll be 11 slashing. This halberd quickly hits into your back. Another runs up to you, Keely, and is going to try and end you. 15 is the highest, which I don't think hits.
Dwarves don't end easy.
Yep. So the first strike goes over your head, and the second one just misses you. Okay, and then another one is going to rush. 3 more are going to rush to his side, and they're going to ready actions. If anyone tries to attack, that they will strike. Board.
Cynric charges forth into the flame and the fury, and Board again shields himself from the flame, and through the heat and the fire he sees strung up and mortally wounded in ways that not even Board can comprehend. He begins to feel the fury from inside. He looks to the orcs in front of him, those that have prepared to receive him. He draws his gauntlet, draws his hatchet, and he charges forward after engaging in his battle fury. He also rolls a 14 for his first attack, and that is with disadvantage because of the heat.
Okay. That's going to miss the orcs.
Yep. And so they parry it. I don't think he gets another attack because he battle furied, right?
It's a bonus action. You still have 2 attacks. Yeah.
Okay, great. But it's still at disadvantage, and so the next one is an 18.
That'll do
modified. Excellent. Wow. The hatchet of Amon Lonk gleams in the light of the Vadarakor, and 4, 8, 11 points of damage are done to whichever orc encounters me first. And I imagine I'll probably be hit 3 times. Because they prepared their actions, yes. I didn't know if that was...
Yeah, I rolled. It doesn't go well for the orc. So you slash the hatchet into the shoulder, and it like tries to get its halberd to bear, but it's unable to do so. The first one misses, and the second one it tries to hit you with the butt end, and that misses too. Maybe you dodge. Maybe it just like it's a dull thud into the side, but with your battle fury, you don't feel it. Okay, and the Drake is going to be killing those orcs around one of the fire pits. You can turn briefly to see the elves fighting this creature of shadow and flame. Its wings like open wide, and then it like takes off for a moment, and then like lands down with a. I'll have each of you make a strength save, please.
Rolled well for that one. 25.
18. So wrong.
And Killy?
17.
Okay. So everyone except for Cineric are going to be knocked down to the ground as this this buffet of flame and of hot air will just knock you to the ground. A bunch of the orcs are flung low as well. The Black Numenorean doesn't budge. Keely, it's your turn.
Killy, as he finds himself on the floor, tries to grab the Black Numenorean and trip him up. Swings out with his feet to try and trip up with a 26.
Is this to hit or an athletics?
The athletics.
Okay, 1 second. Ooh, 19 on the die, so he will beat a 26.
Oh, okay. And then he'll try and grab the Numenorean whilst he's sort of avoiding his leg. This time only with a 16.
Athletics still, yeah. Yeah, he beats it. 11 on the die.
Okay. And then Killy forces his way back up to his feet and as his movement, but doesn't move away. And he takes a deep breath. Saying, "Casted war," giving himself of a second wind. Good one.
That second wind, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, no problem. The Black Numenorean, he looks around at the people around him. He's going to take that big sword and he's going to invert it and he's going to try and stab down. So 1-2, it's board. 3-4, it's Cineric. Cineric.
Okay.
You weren't knocked prone, sure you weren't?
No, I weren't. I wasn't. It was me and him left standing.
Yeah.
AC 18.
Okay, so the first one is a 26. The second is a 25.
Okay.
The third is a 16.
He doesn't have a third. His hand is gone.
He just has. It's not a bonus attack with his left hand. It's just he has 3 attacks.
Was destroyed by the. But
yeah, the arrow destroys his other hand. Okay. Is he using the big sword single-handedly for less damage? Okay.
Okay.
So the 2 hit. First 2.
Okay, so 22 total.
Okay. That's 1 HP left.
So he takes the sword that he was using in 2 hands. He uses it just as well with one, and he slashes once over his shoulder, and it catches you in the shoulder. And then the second one comes from underneath, which you would never have expected the speed, and it catches you just under the rib cage. And he pulls the sword free. You will die, as your warden of Minas Ithil will die, as Minas Ithil has fallen, and as Minas Tirith will fall, and as all cities on this Middle Earth shall be reduced to ashes.
Killy has a Defender of the Fallen. When an ally drops to less than 1/5 of their health, I can use a reaction to dash to that ally. So I'll sort of try and place myself between the Black Numenorean. Killy forces himself between the Black Numenorean and Cineric if he can.
Yep, no problem. So you leap in front as he raises the sword to finish off Cineric. You stand before him.
Cineric carved heavily, vision flashing between the fire and the smoke in this very room, and the fire and the smoke of Sauron, and the Morgul blade that this creature struck with him as he stood over Elwyn all that time ago, and he has dropped to one knee, barely a strand of life keeping him going. While I am still free, I will fight.
That is what your one-eyed companion said. He said it once. He said it twice. The third time he screamed. Faroth.
So Faroth had taken his opportunity to fire this arrow, but it did mean that his allies are now all in front of him, and he's at the back. He throws his bow over his shoulder, draws forth the Flame of the North, and he charges as fast as he can at the Black Numenorean. But I also have to get through these orcs to get to him, correct?
Yep, just give me athletics, please.
Faroth is desperate, seeing that Cynric has been struck with a mighty attack. He's desperately trying to get to him, to try and help him, to try and save him. I get a 13.
So you're like running, although there are many orcs, and they're kind of ready for you at this stage. You're going to get opportunity attack by one of them as you run by. 14 plus 8. So that'll hit you.
Well.
With 10 slashing from a halberd as you run. You're almost knocked off course, but you're able to continue running, and you can reach the Black Numenorean and your companions.
Oh, good. They don't prevent me then. That's good. Okay. So Faroth comes swinging out of nowhere. His first attack is a modified 20. His second is likely going to miss, parried by the Black Numenorean. So that's if the modified 20 hits.
It does not. 21 is the AC for the Black Numenorean.
So yeah, he blocks both my attacks. Shit.
So he's just moving in this strange way. You can't see him move, but his sword is always there. So every time you swing or somebody swings, it's always and blocking. And he just seems to like vanish and reappear and always blocking, too quick for the eye to follow. It seems that after his most recent death, he has come back more powerful than ever. Cynric.
Cynric props himself up, given the window of time with Killy. The world is slow. The world is throbbing. He looks down on his hand, and there is the ring of Barra here. Around his neck falls the necklace of Huria. Dwarven shield, elven mail, Rohan iconography, and a helm. He doesn't even know where it's from or how old it is. All bedecked upon a simple horseboy. He feels the end coming. He takes a deep breath, raises his axe with what little exhausted strength he has left. He will do Rohan proud. Oh, that was a 19. Not a crit. Damn it. Narrative. The second one misses, but the first one hits. That is full damage, though. That's something. So I think that's 16 damage.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice one. You can have inspiration. The axe strikes. You can see Cynric barely standing. There's blood pouring from his wounds, but nonetheless, he's able to find a gap, and the axe hits into the Black Numenorean. These orcs are now going to try and protect their master. So the one goes for you, Cynric. It like goes to do so, but Killy is in the way, and he like manages to knock the spear aside. It rolls a 1, and so its halberd goes clattering across the room and then down into the fire pit, and it looks angry about it. 16 on you, Fareth, which I think misses.
It does, AC 18.
A 24 on you, Killy, which will almost certainly hit.
Yep.
For 14.
Mm-hmm. Ow.
And a 11 on you, board, so that's not going to hit. So they're slashing out, trying to protect their master as he continues to chant. Board, it is your turn.
The chanting increases in volume, not only in the air of the large chamber, but also in Bord's head, in Bord's mind. He sees the great eye just for a moment, just a flash, and he snaps immediately out of it. He sees his friends fighting this beast of a man. He's never seen anything like that. The flames from this monster nearby knew as well. The dragon from earlier, he's seen 3 rare beasts just in this mountain alone. He does not know if he will ever be the same person again. He is struck, and he will swing and get another critical miss with his first attack against the orc that's right next to him that is attempting to defend its master. We'll do it with the gauntlet this time.
You hit with the gauntlet, did you say?
No, sorry, critical miss with the gauntlet.
Okay.
I really like to preface all of my critical misses with just extensive narrative description.
No, I love it. Don't lose that. It's great. So maybe the gauntlet hits a particularly pointed piece of the armor, and there's like a crunch as like one of your fingers, like you feel this like pain of dislocation. Maybe we'll give you 3 bludgeoning as you like. There's like this loud crunch from that. Okay, and your second attack? Are you done?
I keep thinking that because I got a crit miss, I don't get to attack a second time. Sorry, I keep doing that. The second one against the exact same orc would be a total of 16.
That won't do it, unfortunately.
That won't do it. Okay, cool. So, yep, he's just, he feels the pain, he feels the heat, he feels the darkness, he feels the shadow.
Yeah, it's a reflexive strike with the axe, but it's not deep enough. It scores the armor, but doesn't quite cut through. Okay, the Valaralkar, you can see as you like look briefly in that direction, an elf, it looks like Eladan, is flung across the room, hit with the axe to like fly up and then land in a heap across the other side of the room. But you can see the elven lords and their blades flashing and gleaming, and starlight battling that of the flame and the shadow as they fight. But the Balrog, it like takes this deep sort of breath and grows, and then there's like a and flames wreath the chamber. I'll need each of you to make a dexterity saving throw, please.
(24), 18 on the die.
17.
10.
I imagine it's half anyway, though.
Yeah, I know.
Shit.
So the DC there was 16 for that.
That's good.
If you got it, you will take 9. If you didn't, you will take 4, 5. 5. Right?
Cyneric, scalded. It is too much. Collapses to the ground. Visions in flame. The world in flame.
You look for a moment, bored, and you like look at Cyneric, and he like falls into the fire, and you can just see this flash, the eye, before you strike at the orc. Keely.
White now, with from the beast of Angband. He's concentrating his efforts on the Black Numenorean, but it's the presence of the Balrog that's terrifying him. He he takes comfort from the axes of Asgal in his hands, and he swings with stone, a feint, and then tries to hook Knight over the neck guard of the Black Numenorean. Again, it's a grapple. He's trying to sort of grapple it in his grip. 23.
27.
And then he tries to, as he does that, he tries to kick the Black Numenorean in the back of his. He sees a knee for a moment and kicks out at it, trying to knock him down, but fails. He gets a 1.
Okay.
That's all.
Is that it for you?
That's it.
Okay.
Unless with my bonus action. Those were grapple attacks. Can I use my third
Yes.
action? So
grapple
stone,
is part of the action, so you can still attack with your offhand.
So stone comes up and off. Sorry, just a second. Oh, do it on another. This one's got a delay, so I'll try it on this. 15. No.
No, you can't quite pierce that armor. Every time you go to strike, he's not there. The Numenorean looks at the fallen Cynric, and there's this laugh that you can hear in your minds. He will fall. You will all fall. The light of the sun will be gone from this world. He's going to try and strike at Faroth. So he misses 1. The second one is a 28, and the third is a crit.
Okay.
Oof.
Okay.
Too bad. So 7 from the first.
Uh-huh.
17 from the crit.
Okay, that's fine. I'm fine. Ish. Well, we'll see, won't we? We'll see.
Let's see.
What we're rolling. Or do you want to roll it? No, you're rolling it, aren't you?
Go for it.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'd rather it was in your hands. A D10.
I bet you would. Right, let's see. That is a 4.
Okay.
Better not slit my throat again. That would be so annoying.
D10 again, please.
5. Sort of in the middle. I don't know what that means. I really don't know what that means.
Okay, so the first is a slash. The second, he takes the crossguard of the sword, and like as you try to parry, he takes his sword, not like this, and just like shoves the crossguard into your face, and you're like knocked back for a second. You're seeing stars. You have disadvantage on attacks and saving throws on your next turn.
Piss.
Could have been so much worse.
But still.
It's your turn.
Oh, God. Do I try and be clever? No, I should do what I was going to do. So Faroth basically gets this blinding... No, I'm not going to risk it. Blinding attack to the face. Fine, he's going to take his attacks at disadvantage then, I'm afraid. I can't risk it right now. Oh, shit.
Can't risk shouting, revealing your royalty.
Yeah, but I'll get. Hang on. Does it do anything to my? I'm pretty sure it does stuff to my attacks as well, doesn't it? Let me just see. It's been a while since I've been saving it for this very moment. Let me just double check. Royalty revealed. No, I suppose I could do it.
I was more thinking about me, not.
It won't get you up, mate. You're down. You have to be able to hear it. We went through this last time, unfortunately. Yeah. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for the health. I'm gonna wait just to standard attacks. Okay, definitely gonna miss on the first one. Okay. I've missed. Yeah, I don't hit him. It's 21, isn't it? I don't hit him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Faroth wildly swings, stars in his eyes, and staggers back away from the Black Numenorean.
There's just laughter from the Numenorean. You are no match for me, false son of a fallen bloodline. Cynric, death saving throw, please.
Pass.
Excellent. The orcs step forward. They're going to attack each of you guys. Oh my god. It's bad news. It's lots of crits. Okay, so Farath, you will probably get hit for a 20. That's not a crit. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, yeah, I do get hit for 20. Yeah, I thought you meant you crit on me. That's all.
That's 7 slashing to you.
Right.
Keely, you'll take 11. And can you roll me a d10? Board, you'll take 16, but you'll take half because of your fury. And I need a d10 from you as well, please.
I get a 9.
9.
I got a 10.
Oh dear. So the 9 is adrenaline surge. You, Keely, get this smack, and you'll regain 1 hit point each round until the end of the encounter. At which stage you will gain 3 levels of exhaustion. So you get hyped up. However, I need another. This is going to be real bad, Barker. I'm going to be honest with you. A d10 from you, please.
We've been waiting for this moment for a long time, you and I.
The old oh shit table.
Another d10, you said?
Yeah, please.
That was an 8. All around me are familiar faces.
Oh shit.
Okay, so 8 and 9 in this table don't make sense for Lord of the Rings, because can you roll again, please?
Yeah. 5.
Okay. So the sword arcs across and then up under your armpit and in. You drop to 0 hit points and fall unconscious. You will remain unconscious for 2d6 days and then die unless magical healing is administered.
That dislocated finger just doesn't seem like an issue.
No.
Board falls, and I imagine near Cynric, the person he was looking to, and sees nothing, feels nothing.
Okay.
I imagine it's like when like when Haldir falls at the Battle of Helm's Deep, where you have this moment. Aragorn's looking around, everything's in slow motion. The last 2 Bjornings in the entire conflict have fallen, and their bodies lay strewn on the battlefield. He knows then he's going to have to deliver messages to multiple companions, and if he can get out of here alive himself, and then he falls unconscious.
Bring that Drake in anytime. Anytime.
It was the orcs. It was the orcs, wasn't it? So it was the orcs that got you.
Yep.
Okay. Board, a death saving throw, please.
Board for death saving throw?
Yeah. Oh no, he'll die in 2d6 days, so he actually doesn't need to make the saving throws.
Good.
Okay. The thing. The Balrog. It swells up to a gigantic size. The wings expand and it lets out a roar. I need Keely and Faroth to make me wisdom saving throws, please.
Jesus. 21.
Oh. Seven.
Okay.
No, 5.
So, Faroth, you resist. But Keely, you are terrified of the Balrog. You like look at it, and it's so terrible, so ancient, so fearful, and all you want to do is flee from it. You are afraid. You can re-roll that save on each of your turns. Okay, Keely, it's your turn.
Am I the sort of the Dungeons and Dragons effect of afraid that I can't move closer to it, and I'm at disadvantage whilst it's in sight?
Yes, exactly.
Right. I said, Killy looks over at Faroth and says, it seems it's just me and you, and we've taken down a few of them, but I reckon a dwarf is better in this combat than any human. Issuing my War Master's challenge, we both get +1 on attacks whilst we're in this competition. Because you're determined to outdo the dwarf. And Keely will... How far are we from the fire pits?
You're kind of, if the room is a triangle, like the fire pits are here and here, and you're at the point of the triangle. So 30-ish feet.
Okay, I'm going to give up on that idea and just attack at disadvantage. First attack misses. Second attack misses. Third attack. Oh, hits. AC 22.
Excellent.
So, hits for 6 points damage.
Okay. All right, nice. That was Keely. The Numenorean is cackling, and he's going to turn towards you, Keely, and he's going to unleash. Only one of them will connect. 4. Yeah, only one.
You're slowing down. You're slowing down, young one, he says.
It'll be 9 slashing from that one. The first two, a little bit clumsier, maybe a little bit slower. The wounds are starting to show, and there's like black shadow issuing from the deeper cuts. Faroth.
The flames, the darkness, the chaos is silent surrounding Faroth. He turns, blood dripping from a wound in his face where the Black Numenorean had struck him. As his vision returns to him, blurry, he sees Cynric lying there. He sees Bord pierced deeply to the point that he collapses to the ground, sliding from a filthy orc's blade. And Faroth just looks at the Black Numenorean in the eyes, and he sees that everything that this individual has become, everything that this creature has lost, and sees that it is likely that he is going to lose the same. And he looks at him and he says, there is still a light in my heart. And while I can speak, whilst I can walk, whilst I can fight, whilst I can scream, I shall say, Anarion! And he makes one final dash at the Black Numenorean, striking for 27 and 25.
Yeah.
Yes.
18 and 17 points of damage, respectively. Killy, you get 9 HP back. As do I.
how does he fall apart?
Fucking yes, sorry. It's literally as the fire is erupting from the Balrog, and the elves are making one last charge against the Balrog. Faroth just jumps, dodges between orcs, swiping at him left and right, cutting one down. He leaps upon the Black Numenorean, and as he has done before, he will do so again. He double hands his sword, holding the blade with one hand, and just stabs it once and then twice into the Black Numenorean's mouth.
The shadow like gushes forth from the empty armor, and there's just this thick sort of goopy shadow that spreads out, and then there's like a as the whatever was in there is no longer in there, and the pieces of armor collapse onto the ground. The orcs are all flung to the ground, and there's like a moment of like as the Balrog. You can see part of it is like being drawn back into those fire pits. You can see the Elven Lords and Lady Arwen just like trying everything they can, and they're driving it backwards, and it's like being sucked further and further into those pits. It like slashes out, and you see Thranduil knocked low, and then Arwen, and Glorfindel looks back, looks to you, Faroth, and nods, and then like leaps up onto the Balrog and like drives it into the fire pit, and he goes with it. And then there's just this silence that falls.
I then honestly roll a natural 20 to recover and come screaming up into a completely silent room, and then
Perfect.
look around at what has been wrought.
And I think Killy also was knocked to his knocked onto his back by the sort of blast, but he staggers up and quickly attacks the downed orcs, finishing them off as quickly as he possibly can, and then turns back to Faroth and says, "That only counted as one."
Faroth is on one knee. He's got the Flame in the North driven into what remains of the Black Numenorean. And he just looks up at the dwarf, and he just slides from the Numenorean onto the ground and just looks at the dwarf in disbelief, and then looking to where Glorfindel disappeared into the flame and the shadow. He can't speak. And he slowly starts to crawl his way towards Fallen Board.
You can see like Thranduil trying to get up, and he struggles to do so. He's been like smashed against the wall. Eladan did not rise after he was thrown across the room. And you can see that the other elf lords there are tears streaming in their faces. Glorfindel looks like he's gone. And they look around the room. The orcs who are not dead are fleeing, screaming. And you can hear this sort of like phantom scream as fear grips the orcs remaining in Gundabad. Thranduil will eventually rise and approach, and he will look down at those of you who remain. It's done.
Help him. Faroth barely whispers from the ground, holding onto Board, trying to press his hand onto the bleeding, and he says, "Help him."
He looks down, and the blood coming from Thranduil's like nose, and you can see that like the glamour that he usually has that hides that hideous scar is gone. And he like nods slowly as if utterly exhausted, and like falls down onto his knees, trying to do his best to save Board. There's like a clamor all around, and we like see throughout Gundabad on all the different levels, and the bridges between the Cloven Spire at the very, very top of the Twisted Peak, outside in the front as orcs try to leave and are run down by cavalry. That the orcs are fleeing as best they can into the depths of this place, trying to flee, but every entrance is blocked. It will take days, maybe weeks, to clear them from this place, but they are broken. And it seems like Gundabad has finally been given back to the forces of the light, taken from the claws of the shadow. And that's where we're going to end today's session.
Can I just quickly ask?
Yes,
Is there any sign of life in Beragond?
Yes, it looks like
Shall I make any death saves or anything like that?
Looks like with the magical help of the elves, he might live.
So he's not dead yet.
Not dead yet.
I will, running on adrenaline, and as the orcs flee, I will move to Beragond's side, and the axe thuds into the wall, cutting the chain, and I catch him.
And as you get close to him, you hear him sing, "And find our long forgotten gold, and find our long forgotten gold," over and over and over again as you cut him down. And he's sort of he's glowing almost. His skin has become almost translucent, and he's got a slight pale glow about him, almost like the things you saw in the marshes. And he's almost faded out of sort of consciousness. He looks up at Cineric, and a look of vague recognition comes on his face, and he looks around the other people. He looks around and flinches at the sight of the elves, and he focuses on Faroth for a moment. And as he focuses on Faroth, he says, "My king, you have come to visit me in my cell, our Pharazon."
Awesome. That's how we're going to end it.
That's definitely how we're ending it. Oh my god.
Awesome. Perfect. I hope you enjoyed it. If you watched, see you next time.